So the U.S. and other countries continue to support Ukraine in its war against Russia. The latest aid package totaling $2.5 billion. So this brings the total U.S. contribution to $27.5 billion. So here with us now to discuss the latest on the war in Ukraine, where we're at, how things are going. We've got Professor James Reagans, the director for the Center for Intelligence and National Security at OU. Welcome in, sir. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to see you as well, Shirley, and thank you for having me.
Always good to see you. So let's start with where we are at in the war in Ukraine. I know it's probably hard to say who's winning and who's losing, but if you were to give us some perspective here on what exactly is happening in Ukraine.
Sure, that's really a great question, and I think it helps frame whether the money being spent, which is a tremendous amount of money, is that really a good investment for America, and why is America spending that money? If you look at it right now, for the last 2 months, it's largely been stalled on the battlefield, the Russians and the Ukrainians. That's not surprising because you're into winter. It hasn't been as harsh this winter, but it's still harsh there. And so as a result, you've had a situation where the Ukrainians advanced very significantly into the fall, retook Kherson City, made advances in the Donbass. Now it's kind of like a seesaw. It's going back and forth. And the Russians have been throwing a lot of people into the Bakhmut area of the Donbass. So it's become a really brutal war of attrition. I mean, a lot of casualties, thousands of people on both sides killed. Sure. And at the same time, you can see where the Russians are just pummeling Ukraine's infrastructure. I mean, imagine if all the lights were going out constantly in Oklahoma, if it was cold, if it was dark, if you had problems with food supply. The Ukrainians are persevering through that. I mean, it's really a tribute to their will to be a nation.
Now let's talk about the money there, because you did mention it.
Sure.
It is a tremendous amount. And one thing that we hear a lot is, how can we be spending so much money in Ukraine when Americans are struggling here at home? Why are we spending so much money in Ukraine? So just explain the reasoning that you think for me.
Another really good question, and it's a perfectly understandable question, because if you think about it, it's no different than your personal budget. In fact, that's probably what triggers a lot of Americans, not just Oklahomans alone, to say, why are we doing this? Same thing's happening in Europe. But if we look at it, the EU has stepped up. They've increased. America is the biggest donor. But if you look at the UK, UK's economy is in trouble. They're contributing, the Poles, the Baltic countries. And the reason it's of value to the US is, first of all, we should be able to use the trite phrase, chew gum and walk at the same time, all right? And it's in our interest to see that we have a strong, secure economy domestically. Absolutely, okay? Are people going through hardship? Sure, we're potentially on the cusp of a recession. But at the same time, it's not like all the threats to our interests in the world have hit the pause button. Just the opposite. I mean, historically, every time Russia has engaged in aggression and succeeded, they've come back for more. All right, so it's not like if we say, all right, hit the pause button, let Putin keep the Donbass, let him keep Crimea, that the U.S. won't have problems. Moreover, you see a lot in the news about Taiwan, you see about North Korea, you see about Iran. So other countries, which certainly aren't friendly to America, that are really authoritarian countries, are also interested. So in a way, it's an investment. In fact, it is an investment in our own security and our own long-term interest.
Nuclear threats here as well.
Sure.
Where are we? I know that the nuclear arms treaty, they had said that they would come back to the table and discuss it, Russia and the U.S. So where are we at with those talks?
Okay, well, the real question there is not so much counterproliferation, non-proliferation, setting caps on weapons, but rather Russia perennially under Putin has been rattling the nuclear saber. It would be foolhardy to have no concern about the possible use of nuclear weapons. That said, the likelihood of actually Russia using a low-yield nuclear weapon, okay, that's what people refer to as tactical nuclear weapons. It's really the yield that you're talking about. Spent a lot of my career dealing with that stuff, and if we look at it, I don't think Putin is likely to use a nuclear weapon at this juncture. All right, I think it's very effective at causing hesitance on the part of the Germans in particular, the French, our own government. That said, there's really not a strategic advantage given Putin's war aims, to go to using nuclear weapons. So we'll see. Time will tell.
Last 30 seconds here. We could talk for hours on this, but just last 30 seconds, kind of message to our viewers, message to Americans right now about any concerns that they should have, and kind of overall message.
Overall message is, I think it would be very prudent if the United States, if the Biden administration took a small number of tanks, 12 to 20, which is like a company of M1s. I see why technically we argue against sending the A1s, because they consume JP8, which is jet fuel. The Australians have the same tank. They use diesel. So you could probably even burn vodka in it. It would reduce their range, but I think we should really go ahead symbolically, because it's a geopolitical question. It's not just a technical question.
Always fascinating to talk to you, sir. Really, just thank you so much for helping us out here, and we appreciate your time. And I know it's a lot to talk about, but
well,
yeah.
It's my pleasure, and there's a lot to chew on.